You know, for the guy who has, well, the Todd Herman Show podcast and the Todd Herman Show on Radio America, God's Blessed Me with the Disciples View with Todd Herman on American Family Radio, it's kind of a weird thing for me to say. I want to see media investigated. And I'm saying this because of the free speech award they gave Jimmy Kimmel, suspended rather, for 3 days and then brought back because they had a meaningful discussion. And if you saw the ABC statement on this, ABC came out and said it was his statements were done at an inopportune time. The timing is wrong, and therefore they were insensitive because the timing is wrong. So there's a better time for a so-called comedian to lie about the alleged assassin of an important political figure. And only now is the left really even getting to understand how important Charlie Kirk was as a political figure and why, and how he's even more important now. And they're going to learn a great big lesson on that. So it was just the timing. I want to see the Mockingbird media investigated. I want to see them investigated because they brought Jimmy Kimmel back. I want to see them investigated because of their coordination with the leftist state. The deep state. I want to see him investigated because this can't be money that's driving this decision. This cannot be profit that's driving this decision. Maybe they're afraid of looking like they bowed to Trump or Brendan Carr. Okay, it could be that, but it can't be money because these shows are costing them money. Now, there are ways that we can invest the Mockingbird media, investigate them, and I don't think it's hard. They took federal monies to promote the COVID shots. The COVID shots are going to be pulled off the market. You have an opportunity then to say, hey, why did you push this so hard? What was your coordination with pharma in relation to public health? You took interviews that were pushed by public health authorities. We'd like to understand what the rules of those interviews were. And this just begins to open the door to looking at money changing hands and the Mockingbird media doing the things that pharma wanted, the deep state wanted. And why did you all march in lockstep against Trump and pro-Biden? Why did you do that? Is it just because Hollywood's that bent, or was there money changing hands? Federal government has no problem investigating everything else. Why can't we investigate the media? After all, they took the federal monies. We can start with the COVID stuff. What's so fascinating about this is watching people ignore and choose to ignore who Jimmy Kimmel was as it relates to free speech. Maybe this was money. And money drives a lot of decisions in America. And one of the decisions that are going to drive for you is, can you actually retire? And retirement meaning what for you? You know, I know people who say, hey, look, when I retire, I'm going to find the cheapest place I'm going to live. I'm going to move down to Kentucky, and a couple $100,000 down there can buy you a castle. Retire down there and the cost of living is cheap. Okay, that can be one plan. What if you don't want to leave where you're at? What if you live in one of the separate countries, but your whole family's there and you have to continue to live there? Do you think that that might require some special advice in terms of investing? Maybe some fancy stuff, lots of algorithmic stuff. Really? When they're inventing a new digital coin every day, a bunch of algorithms? Okay, I guess you could do that, or you could go back to basics. That's what my friend Zach Abraham is doing, the Chief Investment Officer at Bulwark Capital Management. His new free live webinar is about how going back to the basics has delivered to them thus far a really, really good year. He's going to talk about his outlook for 2025. He's going to talk about how they have beaten the market this year, and it doesn't matter that sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes they have down years because they'll explain how those happen as well. So if you're 5, 10, even 15 years from retirement, this is a must attend to see why they performed so well this year. It's Bulwark Capital Management's free live webinar, October 2nd at 3:30 Pacific. Just go register at knowyourriskpodcast.com. That's knowyourriskpodcast.com. Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC and SEC registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 25-298. Jimmy Kimmel, is it money that's keeping him there? It's not. I want to see an investigation on this because it's not ideology that has Jimmy Kimmel concerned about freedom of speech. It's not ABC's ideology that they're suddenly in favor of freedom of speech. This is a flashback to Kimmel when President Trump was banned from Twitter.
Trump has been suspended from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and even Snapchat. But don't worry, Mr. President, there are still plenty of apps you do have access to. You still have Spotify to drown out the sound of millions of people cheering as you leave. You still have Pet Finder since you're on the outs with Mike Pence. You have Cameo, which will soon be your primary source of income. You can still play Among Us, a game where everyone accuses each other of being against them. You'd love it. You could play Pokemon Go. You and Donnie Jr. can hunt Pikachus together. And when no one else wants you, don't forget, there's always your old friend, the Domino's Pizza Tracker. Not only did Trump get banned from Twitter, Google, Apple, and Amazon removed the Parler app from their platforms. Parler is where all the right-wingers gather to post QAnon nonsense and misspell the word parlor. And no one was more upset about Parler going away than a sneaky little congressman named Devin.
But it's more than just the financial aspect of that. Republicans have no way to communicate. I have 3 million followers on Parler. Tonight, I will no longer be able to communicate with those people.
I mean, other than being on Fox News right now. Why does Devin Nunes always look like somebody knocked his ice cream out?
Comedian now, right? Now it's a comedian. So that was his view of the President of the United States of America being banned from social media platforms when he tried to tell people, do not be violent on Jan 6. The chief executive elected by this nation, that was Jimmy Kimmel's view. I want to see an investigation because it's not ideology and it cannot be money that's driving these decisions. For instance, if you look at just the viewership of this stuff, this late night stuff. And by the way, the genesis of late night matters. Do you wonder why late night is even on? They used to turn TVs off. Did you know that? The networks used to turn off. I remember when I was a kid, I would stay up late enough to see the United States flag and the pledge, not the Pledge of Allegiance, but the Star Spangled Banner play. I think it was at midnight. I can in my mind still see it. It was a black and white image because we didn't get a color TV until late. And there was the flag. There's the Star Spangled Banner. Boom, they turned the TVs off. I mean, you could leave your TV on, but there's no signal. Somewhere, someone at a time said, why are we doing that? Right? Let's put some late night stuff on. Let's run some reruns overnight. I mean, there's an audience of people who are up. So why waste that audience? Just run reruns. We've already paid for this stuff. And we're just earning multiples on it. So it's just a sunk cost anyway. But this way, then, when our prime time comes on, it'll be on our channel. Late night served that purpose. Late night shows were never meant to draw a huge amount of audience. It was about having audiences who are addicted to TV turn on the TV in the morning already set to that station. And it was also a built-in way to promote in-house talent. So when David Letterman used to be a comedian, before he became a very, very bitter and angry old man, David Letterman used to have a lot of people from CBS on his show. So stars from this or that program, but occasionally they'd cross over and there was a deal with the late night producers. You have our guys on, we'll have your guys on. Your actresses and actors, we'll have ours on. That was the purpose it served. Secondly, the costs were very low. I mean, David Letterman paid a band, and that was basically it. Him, Chris Elliott, some kind of minor talent. Now these costs have ballooned. Even as they don't need these costs anymore, these so-called comedians can do this at home. In January, the late night viewership was 212,000 people in demo. What that means is the people the advertisers want to reach, 212,000 in demo. In August, it was down to 129,000 people. The total viewers down from 1.9 million down to 1.1 million. This is true for all of these programs. If you look at these images, it couldn't be more clear. These things have a downward trajectory. Here's the number of viewers in black on top, and down below then, you can see the trajectory as these things move down and down and down. It's no longer working. This cannot be money. These shows are not delivering audience. It cannot be money. The program, Jimmy Kimmel, was rated 53rd among ABC shows. I want an investigation because they're giving this guy this free speech award, and it cannot be based upon ideology. Jimmy Kimmel made a decision to lie, and ABC's come out and said, well, it was inopportune. It wasn't a good time to lie about this particular assassin. And this was what he said, which has been lost to history, purposely lost to history. If you know anything about Tyler Robinson, you can know for a fact that what Jimmy Kimmel decided to say was an absolute lie.
Over the weekend, with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
Yep, so there's the comedian. Funny man. Funny man. President Trump was out there to speak about something very specific. President Trump did fly the flags at half-mast. President Trump flew out to the funeral. Very funny, Jimmy Kimmel. I want to see an investigation because it's not ideology. It's not money that keeps these shows on the air. It's not ideology that backs up the free speech. I want to see it because they always walk in lockstep. That's not a natural behavior. News organizations should want to race each other to a story. It's also endemic across the Mockingbird media. This is Politico. Kimmel suspension sets off furious debate over free speech. Did it happen when President Trump was banned from social media? Did that set off a furious debate? Was there a furious debate when Jimmy Kimmel stood against Roseanne Barr, getting her show back? Because he did stand against that. Jimmy Kimmel made a big statement about Roseanne Barr not getting her show back. What we've seen time and time again from outlets like the Politico is we'll see instances like this. Biden set to counterpunch on misinformation. Well, wait a minute. Biden set to counterpunch, and then there's this furious speech over free speech, furious debate over free speech. When Jimmy Kimmel came out to defend ABC for canceling Roseanne Barr's show, was that a fierce debate over freedom of speech? Nope. It was him doing the right thing, standing up, even against a friend of his. And when Biden's campaign came out to counterpunch on misinformation, this is not how they betrayed President Trump being banned. If you look at this from a perspective of misinformation, I want to see an investigation. Mark Hemingway posted this. Charlie Kirk was the victim of a white supremacist hit. We're reaching new levels of delusion here. LA Times spoke with an expert, and you can see the image there, about the markings on the killer's bullets and casings. Turns out Charlie Kirk was likely the victim of a white supremacist gang hit. Well. I want to see an investigation into the LA Times that you could even believe this, or that this person is capable of providing any form of expertise whatsoever. CNN, they got into this game as they always do. This is CNN talking about Kimmel, etc.
Conservative that we can hear from on this is actually Charlie Kirk himself, who, of course, has been widely noted that he was gunned down when he was engendering debate, right? He was having debate with people that he disagreed with, that he agreed with, right? So he did an interview with Fox at one point where he talked about comedy, what it means to be made fun of. I won't characterize it. Let's watch it.
I look at this as a badge of honor. I laughed and I chuckled. I couldn't believe, honestly, at first, like, come on, this has to be some sort of AI troll, but it turns out it's real. I'm excited to watch it because, look, we as conservatives need to be able to take a joke, right? We shouldn't take ourselves so seriously. That's something that the left has always done to great detriment to themselves and the movement. And look, again, they're professional comedians. They're probably going to roast me, and I think that's fine. I think that's probably one of the problems.
So they're taking Jimmy Kimmel's response to having been on South Park, and they're merchandising it as Jimmy Kimmel would be against, or probably Charlie Kirk would be against Jimmy Kimmel being banned. Okay. And Charlie Kirk was a human being with his own opinions. His primary role in life was to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, and he would be against this, and CNN will be against anything that President Trump proposes. So will the late night shows. And for those reasons, I want to see an investigation because it's not ideology and it's not money that keeps these things on the air.